an unforgettable tale of family betrayal and lost dreams. When my parents, convinced of my genius brother's destined brilliance, diverted every ounce of my hard-earned college savings to fund his future, I was condemned to linger in the shadow of unfulfilled potential and quiet resentment. A decade later, as mounting medical bills and the harsh reality of their misguided choices beset our family, I delivered a final, irrevocable act of retribution by handing them his contact information, only to discover that he had never left the suffocating confines of our family basement. In this raw narrative of shattered promises, hidden secrets, and the cruel irony of favoritism, the true cost of a lifetime built on deception and misplaced hope is brutally revealed. A brutal truth laid bare for all of us. I never expected that the day would come when the past would finally catch up with me in such a surreal, almost cinematic way. Growing up, our family was a study in contrasts. My parents always had this unwavering belief that my older brother was destined for greatness, a brilliant, shining star who would carry the family legacy into a future of endless possibilities. I was the quiet observer, the diligent child who worked hard without expecting accolades, while my brother basked in the glow of our parents' unyielding praise. I remember vividly the day when my college savings, painstakingly accumulated over the years, were diverted into his account. My parents declared that his talent warranted such an investment, and they believed without question that his future was too brilliant to be wasted. That decision cut me to the core, though at the time I masked my hurt with silent acceptance. It wasn't until much later, after years of watching him flit from one half-hearted endeavor to another, that I began to understand the full measure of the injustice done to me. In the ensuing years, I forged my own path, one that was lined with both hardship and small victories. I moved to a modest city, where I juggled multiple jobs and embraced every challenge as an opportunity to prove that hard work could eventually lead to success. My brother, on the other hand, seemed content to live in the shadow of our parents' inflated expectations. He was the poster child of wasted potential, drifting from one half-baked idea to the next, never truly committing to any path. Family. Gatherings were always tinged with an awkward tension. Our parents would reminisce about his early promise, their eyes sparkling with misplaced pride, while I sat quietly, the bitterness of betrayal simmering beneath the surface. A decade later, life took an unexpected turn. My parents, once so robust in their optimism, began to falter under the weight of age and mounting health issues. The bills started to pile up, and it wasn't long before the reality of their fragile state became inescapable. I received countless, desperate phone calls, their voices trembling with fear and regret. It was in the midst of this crisis that the irony of our family's past became unbearably clear. Here were the very same parents who had once sacrificed my future for my brother's supposed brilliance, now faced with insurmountable medical expenses that neither their limited savings nor my modest income could cover. One bleak afternoon, as I sat alone in my cramped apartment with nothing but the hum of the city as company, my phone rang once again. This time the call was from my mother. Her voice, usually so composed, quivered with a desperation that I had never before heard. They were drowning, and they needed help. Immediate help. In that moment, memories of all those years of quiet, resentment surged forward. Every slight, every overlooked promise, every time I had silently watched as my brother squandered the opportunities handed to him. The pain of being the forgotten one, the one who was always left in the wake of his perceived genius, crystallized into a cold, resolute decision. Instead of offering the help they so desperately sought, I paused, and with deliberate calmness, I simply said, "Call him." I handed them his contact information without an ounce of hesitation or explanation, letting the weight of his inaction speak for itself. What followed was a scene that still haunts me. When my parents dialed his number, they were greeted not by the confident, promising young man they had always believed in, but by a voice tinged with embarrassment and defeat. My brother admitted that he had never left the confines of the old family home, specifically its dank, neglected basement, which had become his refuge from the world. It was a revelation that shattered the carefully constructed illusion of his brilliance. My parents, in a mix of sorrow and disbelief, arranged a meeting at the old house, a dilapidated relic that now seemed to embody every missed opportunity and broken promise. I decided to attend that meeting, not out of a desire to mediate or reconcile, but simply to witness the culmination of a decade's worth of pent-up grievances. The encounter was charged with an atmosphere of unspoken accusations and regret. In the dimly lit basement, under the weak glow of a single flickering bulb, my parents confronted him. Their voices trembled as they recounted every promise he had broken, every chance he had wasted. My brother's defenses crumbled under the weight of their words, and his feeble justifications rang hollow in the oppressive silence. "I always had a plan," he mumbled, his eyes darting nervously as if seeking an escape from the inescapable truth. But there was no plan, only the stark, unvarnished reality of a life squandered. That confrontation was both cathartic and devastating. I watched as my parents' illusions shattered before their eyes, replaced by a painful clarity that was as brutal as it was overdue. For the first time, they were forced to face the truth. Their misplaced faith had cost me my opportunities, and now it had left them stranded in a reality they could neither control nor escape. The bitter taste of justice was mixed with a profound sense of loss. I felt no joy in their suffering, only a resigned satisfaction that, at long last, the scales had been balanced. In that dark, musty basement, amidst the echoes of broken dreams and unfulfilled potential, I found a strange sense of liberation. In the days and weeks that followed, the aftermath of that confrontation rippled through our lives like a slow, relentless tide. My brother retreated further into himself, disappearing into the shadows of the old house as if he were ashamed to meet our eyes. My parents, their hearts heavy with regret, began to question the very foundations of their decisions. They sought solace in therapy and community support, grappling with the realization that their relentless pursuit of an ideal had led them down a path of self-destruction. Meanwhile, I continued to navigate my own journey, burdened by the responsibilities that had unexpectedly fallen upon me. I assumed the role of the pragmatic one, the quiet pillar of support in a family that was slowly unraveling. Each visit to my parents was a reminder of both the fragility and resilience of the human spirit. There were moments of tender reconciliation, glimpses of the family we once were, and moments of stark confrontation where the past was laid bare in all its painful, unyielding truth. Over time, the emotional scars began to heal, though the process was neither linear nor without setbacks. I found myself reflecting on the nature of talent and promise, and I came to a disconcerting realization. Brilliance is not defined solely by the accolades one accumulates or the opportunities one is granted, but by the strength and determination to rise above one's circumstances. My journey had been one of quiet perseverance, a steady climb up a mountain of challenges that never seemed to end. It was a path marked by moments of doubt, of lingering regret over what might have been, and of the slow, often painful recognition that some opportunities are irrevocably lost. Yet, in that recognition, I also discovered a profound sense of self-worth. I was not defined by the sacrifices made on my behalf, nor by the narrow vision of those who had chosen to favor another. I was defined by the choices I had made, by the resilience I had cultivated, and by the unwavering belief that I was capable of forging my own destiny, regardless of the burdens of the past. There were evenings when I would sit alone, pondering the myriad ways life had twisted and turned to bring me to this point. I thought about the basement, its cold, damp walls serving as a constant reminder of my brother's unfulfilled potential and the cost of our parents' misguided hopes. That space, once a symbol of familial security, had become an emblem of decay and lost dreams. Yet even in that decay, I saw the possibility of rebirth. My parents, humbled by their mistakes, began to piece together a new understanding of what it meant to be a family. They reached out to me, seeking forgiveness and offering tentative steps toward reconciliation. Our conversations were raw and unpolished, filled with long silences that spoke volumes and apologies that were as much an admission of their own failures as they were a plea for mercy. I listened, sometimes with a guarded heart, sometimes with a cautious optimism that perhaps, in time, we could all find a way to move forward. In those moments, I recognized that forgiveness is not a simple act of absolution, but a complex process of understanding and acceptance. It meant acknowledging that we are all flawed, that our lives are a tapestry of choices, both good and bad, and that sometimes the only way to heal is to confront the pain head-on. I began to share my story on various online forums, not with the intent of seeking validation or sympathy, but as a way to document the messy, often contradictory nature of family and responsibility. The responses were varied. Some echoed my sentiments with their own tales of lost opportunities and bitter reckonings, while others offered words of encouragement and hope. In the anonymity of the internet, I found a community of kindred spirits, each with their own scars and stories, all united by the shared struggle to make sense of a world that often seems unfair. Looking back now, I see that the events of that fateful day were not merely an act of retribution, but a turning point. A moment when the carefully constructed facade of familial expectation finally crumbled under the weight of truth. My brothers' failures, my parents' regrets, and my own journey of quiet perseverance converged into a singular, undeniable reality: that we are all responsible for our own destinies, and that no amount of misplaced hope can substitute for genuine effort and accountability. I continue to write, to reflect, and to rebuild the bridges that were once thought irrevocably broken. The scars remain, etched into the fabric of our family history, but they serve as a constant reminder of the importance of honesty, the value of hard work, and the transformative power of forgiveness. Now, as I move forward in life with a renewed sense of purpose, I am acutely aware that the past is never truly behind us. It lives in every memory, every regret, and every hard-earned lesson. I carry with me the bittersweet knowledge that even in our darkest moments, there is always a glimmer of hope, a chance to rise above the failures of yesterday. In that dim basement, under the unyielding light of a solitary bulb, I witnessed not just the collapse of an illusion, but the birth of a new understanding, a realization that while our parents may have chosen one path for us, it is ultimately up to each of us to decide the course of our own lives. I found solace in the fact that, despite everything, I had managed to build a life defined by perseverance rather than privilege, by authenticity rather than expectation. Every day I remind myself that the measure of a person is not the number of accolades they receive or the amount of money they accumulate, but the strength of their character in the face of adversity. My parents have begun to rebuild, not just their finances, but their very sense of self, a process that is slow, painful, and yet somehow filled with promise. My brother's fate remains a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the dangers of unfulfilled potential, while my own story serves as a testament to the quiet victories that come from facing life's harsh truths head-on. In sharing this narrative, I hope to convey that while the past may be fraught with regret and injustice, it is never too late to redefine one's future. We all have the capacity to learn, to forgive, and to grow, if only we have the courage to confront the uncomfortable realities that lie beneath the surface. I continue to navigate the complexities of family, responsibility, and redemption with a heart that is both scarred and hopeful. My journey is far from over, and though the wounds of the past may never fully heal, they have taught me to value honesty over pretense and resilience over complacency. In a world that often rewards mediocrity and overlooks genuine effort, I find strength in the knowledge that every setback, every painful truth, has shaped me into the person I am today, a person capable of rising above the confines of a predetermined fate and forging a path uniquely their own. And so, I press on, determined to honor the lessons learned in that cold, dim basement, and to transform them into a future where hope and hard work are the only measures of success.